You can have a normal childhood on paper and still grow up feeling broken in places no one can see. Food, clothes, a bed, school, birthday photos, a family that looked fine from the outside, and still, no one asked what was happening inside you. No one noticed when you went quiet. No one stayed with your tears. No one knew what to do with your anger. No one looked at your face long enough to realize you were disappearing, so you learned to become easy, quiet, useful, strong. The child who did not ask for too much. The child who did not make the room uncomfortable. The child who could sit at the table, surrounded by people, and still feel completely alone. And then you grew up. You learned how to work, how to smile, how to answer messages, how to say, "I'm fine." But somewhere inside you, that child is still waiting for someone to ask, "What are you feeling?" This is what happens when your feelings had no place to go. They do not disappear. They wait, in your chest, in your throat, in your jaw, in the way you get tired after pretending all day, in the way you say sorry too quickly, in the way you feel guilty for needing anything, in the way you can be surrounded by people and still feel impossible to reach. This is not always called trauma. Sometimes people call it a normal childhood. Sometimes they say, "You had everything you needed." But a child can have everything needed to survive and still miss everything needed to feel loved. You say, "I'm fine," before you even know if it is true. Someone asks, "Are you okay?" And your answer comes too fast. "Yeah, I'm fine." But later, when the room is quiet, your body still feels heavy. Your chest is tight. Your face is tired. Your mind feels far away. That is what happens when feelings were treated like problems. Sadness made people uncomfortable. Anger was called disrespect. Fear was ignored. Tears were too dramatic. Need was treated like weakness. So you learned to hide your emotions before anyone had the chance to reject them. You became calm on the outside, even when something inside you was breaking, and people may have praised you for it. "You're so mature. You're so strong. You never cause problems." But sometimes the child who never causes problems is the child who stopped believing anyone would care. You do not always know what you feel, not because nothing is happening inside you, but because no one taught you how to listen. You can feel pressure in your chest, but not know if it is sadness, anger, fear, shame, or exhaustion. You can be upset, but spend more time explaining why you should not be upset than actually letting yourself feel it. You can want something, but not know what, because when your inner world is ignored for long enough, you begin to ignore it too. You stop asking, "What do I feel?" and start asking, "What should I feel? Is this too much? Do I have a right to be hurt?" That is how a person becomes a stranger to themselves. You can read everyone else. You can sense when someone is uncomfortable. You can walk into a room and feel the mood instantly. But when it comes to you, there is silence, a weak signal, a blank space where your own voice should be. You were taught to notice everyone else before you were taught to notice yourself. You take care of people who never ask how you are. You notice who is tired, who is upset, who needs help, who became distant. You adjust yourself quickly, say less, give more, keep the peace, make it easier. You become the listener, the helper, the calm one, the understanding one, the one who does not ask for much. And from the outside, this looks like kindness. But sometimes it is fear wearing the mask of kindness, fear of being too much, fear of being disliked, fear of becoming a burden, fear that if you stop being useful, you will stop being loved. So you give even when you are empty. You agree when your body says no. You comfort people who never notice your exhaustion. You become available to everyone except yourself. And after a while, self-abandonment starts to feel like love. You call it loyalty. You call it patience. You call it being a good person. But deep down, you know there are moments when you are not choosing kindness. You are choosing safety. Because being easy once felt safer than being honest. Being useful once felt safer than needing help. Being quiet once felt safer than being real. Sane gone, you feel guilty for needing anything. You can support others, you can listen for hours, you can help, you can show up. But when it is your turn to need something, your body resists. You feel ashamed for being tired, you feel selfish for saying no. You feel uncomfortable when someone cares about you, someone asks, "What do you need?" And your mind goes blank. Not because you need nothing, but because needing never felt safe. A child who is ignored learns to need quietly, then secretly, then not at all, and people praise that child for being independent, but no one asks why a child had to become so easy to ignore. So now, as an adult, you may say, "I don't need anything," when something inside you is starving. You may say, "It's okay," when it hurt. You may say, "I'm fine," when you are not fine. Your needs are not weakness. They are not a burden. They are not proof that you are too much. They are the parts of you that were waiting to be met. Asking for help feels dangerous, even when you are exhausted, even when you are overwhelmed, even when it is obvious you should not have to carry everything alone. You still think, "I'll handle it. I don't want to bother anyone. Other people have their own problems. I shouldn't ask." Help does not feel like support. It feels like risk. The risk of being rejected. The risk of being ignored. The risk of needing someone and discovering again that no one is there. So you do it alone, again and again and again, until independence becomes your identity. People admire it. They call you strong, capable, reliable, but they do not see the grief underneath it. Sometimes your strength is not confidence. Sometimes it is the memory of no one coming, the memory of needing comfort and receiving silence, the memory of reaching out and feeling foolish for expecting a hand. So when someone finally tries to care about you, you do not know how to let it in. You feel exposed, suspicious, uncomfortable. Because if love once felt unavailable, care can feel unfamiliar. And what is unfamiliar can feel unsafe. You feel empty even when life looks normal, not as one dramatic collapse, not as one terrible memory, but as years of being emotionally alone while looking completely fine. You answer messages, you go to work, you talk to people, you laugh at the right time, you do what life asks of you. But inside, there is a room no one enters, a room where your real feelings wait. The sadness you never named, the anger you were never allowed to show, the needs you buried before anyone could reject them, the tiredness you kept explaining away. And because you stayed away from that room for so long, you may start believing the emptiness is who you are, but it is not. It is not your personality. It is not proof that you are cold. It is not proof that you are broken. It is what happens when a person survives by leaving themselves. A child cannot keep feeling pain that no one answers forever. So the child adapts, they turn the volume down, they stop expecting comfort, they stop asking for more, they become manageable, and the world rewards them for it. But the cost appears later, in relationships where you cannot say what you need, in friendships where you give more than you receive, in nights where you feel sad and cannot explain why, in the strange ache of wanting someone to see you, while hiding everything that would let them. Emotional neglect can be hard to name, because sometimes nothing looks wrong from the outside. No obvious villain, no dramatic scene, no story that sounds bad enough when you say it out loud. So you tell yourself, "Other people had it worse. I should be grateful. Nothing really happened." But something did happen. You were alone with feelings too big for a child. You learned that your inner world was not important enough to interrupt anyone, and that changes a person. It changes how they speak, how they trust, how they love, how they ask for help, how they treat themselves when they are hurting. So if you hide your feelings, if you say "I'm fine" too quickly, if you take care of everyone except yourself, if asking for help feels shameful, if you feel guilty for needing anything, if you feel empty even when life looks normal. You are not weak. You are not broken. Some part of you learned to disappear, because disappearing once felt safer than being disappointed again. But you are not a child at that table anymore. You do not have to wait forever for someone else to ask what you feel. You can begin asking yourself, gently, slowly, what am I feeling? What did I need back then? What do I need now? At first there may be silence, but this time you stay. You do not leave yourself the way others once did. You stay with the sadness. You stay with the anger. You stay with the tiredness. You stay with the part of you that still believes no one cares. And little by little, that part begins to learn something new. That feelings can be heard. That needs can exist. That taking up space is not a crime. That being alive means more than being useful. The pain beneath emotional neglect is not weakness. It is a child inside you who waited too long for someone to ask, "What are you feeling?" And healing begins when you finally ask that question yourself and stay long enough to hear the answer.